The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Welcome to another episode of Speaking with the Senator. I'm Senator Kevin Avard, representing District 12 here in New Hampshire. And today we have Doug Butler, father of Andrew Butler, who is committed at the Psychiatric Unit in the state prison in New Hampshire. And we're going to be talking about his situation. So I want to welcome you, Doug, to the show. Thank you for coming on the show.
Well,
this is an interesting topic. It's something I was saying off air that I've just became aware of this within the last couple of months. And we had some legislation up at the Capitol talking about the psychiatric unit at the New Hampshire State Prison in Concord. And one of the first things that came to mind when I heard about this unit that's up there is that there's a psychiatric unit for those that are held there at the state prison criminally, but also civilly, meaning they have not committed a crime. So now you have two different people, one that belongs in a prison and one that doesn't belong in a prison, but in a hospital.
Yes.
Both sharing the same quarters, if you will. And that drew up some really serious red flags. And as we were debating about it, we were talking about the psychiatric unit. It's called the PSU. We discovered that your son's there.
Yes.
And I heard through a Facebook ad, or an ad where somebody shared it, and they said, Senator Avard, could you look into this? And it was just a coincidence that we had some legislation going on, and we had asked some questions about it, and we tried to look into making the situation there better, if you will, by making the prison accredited so that there would be a higher standard. But those that are held there civilly will not be helped by that. And then we hear about Andrew's case. When it came to my understanding, Andrew, local young man, lives in Hollis, went to Hollis Brookline High School.
Yes.
Graduated with honors. Went to WPI.
Yes.
And then got into some kind of a trouble of some sort. But he's a football star. He's a wrestling star, and had his future right in front of him. What happened?
What happened is around the 4th of July last year, he went to Vermont with some of his friends, or some of the people from the high school. He graduated in 2015, so he hasn't been out of school very long. So anyways, they went over to Vermont and Burlington, and there's places where you can swim and lakes and all that stuff. And Andrew's very athletic, and he can swim forever, miles and miles, you know. And so he went with them, and apparently they had some sort of, psychological kind of medication of some kind. And Andrew took it, and it didn't respond the way many people responded. And
So some kids are playing around with this, and
Yeah.
they figure they get a quick high out of it.
Yeah.
And here, try this, Andrew.
yeah,
Now,
yeah.
did Andrew experiment with drugs prior to that?
No, he was so deep into sports. He wasn't involved in the drugs. There are some other boys that I know of who are, because it's a problem, you know.
Is it hard to get into WPI?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
he
just-
got accepted into some very good schools. This school in Connecticut, he applied to these really, really good schools, and he got accepted in, I believe, all but one that he applied for.
And very scholastic, very no trouble, no history
Right,
of trouble.
right.
And so, okay, I'll try it. He tries this drug, do a quick high, and he had a very bad reaction.
Yes, yeah, that's what happened. And so what they did, the girl that was with him, there's some girls and boys, and so they brought Andrew home. And they didn't really explain to me much what was going on, but I was able to figure it out. And they didn't bring his car home with them. And they just drove him home because they were concerned. And so anyways, I took him back up, and actually I sent him on the bus. So anyways, he was going to pick up his car, and then he didn't make it home. And eventually he ended up in the emergency room in Burlington. And so I was working at the time, so I stopped what I was doing and drove up there and to get it straightened out. But I could see that it was not something I was going to be able to straighten out easily. And so they moved him in Vermont to Brattleboro. And then I would go over to Vermont and visit him in Brattleboro. But I wanted to get him closer to home because I have some Andrew's doctors are really good, and I have a lot of confidence in them. And
So was this all because of the one event that he tried it?
yeah,
Not a series of events, just this one
just
event.
this one. Yeah, it's incredible. It's just based on this one incident.
And so something changed in his system. So one-time drug,
Yeah.
ends up in the hospital, ends up in the emergency room. You try to move him closer. So does he get closer? Do you bring him? Does he get transferred?
Yes, I brought him home to Hollis.
Okay.
And he seemed good for a while. And what I did, and I think, with hindsight, I wish I would have done things differently. But what I did is just keep on insisting that he take the drugs that he was prescribed in Brattleboro, because I didn't know any better. And I didn't know about side effects of drugs. Now I know a lot more. But at the time I hadn't.
What did they prescribe to him? Do you know?
Lorazepam was one. And what they do in the prisons in New Hampshire, because they don't really have they have New Hampshire Hospital, which is, for people like Andrew. But in the prison, what they do is they just give them 3 or so different drugs. There's what I found out is there's 5 generations of drugs, and they all have different side effects.
Can I back up just a
Sure.
little bit? So he takes the drug one time. He
Yeah.
ends up in the emergency room. You bring him home, and because of this one event, he was prescribed this lorazepam.
Yeah.
Is this a normal treatment for something to that effect? Was it to reduce the effects of the drug that he took?
I guess so. Nobody explained. It's kind of strange.
Yeah.
But they didn't really explain it to me.
Did he name? Maybe I missed this, but did he? They name the drug that he took?
It was in the discharge papers. One of them was like a mood elevator, and the other one was a psychotropic drug. And Andrew reacted badly. What it did to him is it made him so he couldn't control his behavior.
Was it violent or was it?
No, it wasn't violent, but he would have, say, fear and become afraid. And I didn't understand it. And I thought it was that the medication, I thought it was something that perhaps I was doing wrong or Andrew was doing wrong or something like that. And I didn't know that it can cause some people to have these sort of problems where they.
And now he's prescribed this particular thing, lorazepam, at the New Hampshire hospital on a routine basis.
Well, yes, and that's a problem. I was able to get it stopped when he started. It got really bad.
When you say it got really bad, when his fear or his reaction to it?
No, well, what it developed into, he's been locked up for a long time, and most of all of it in solitary confinement. He's locked in a cell. This is at the prison.
Let me back up just a little bit. So, he was prescribed this. How did he transfer from your house to the prison? How did that happen?
What happened is originally when these things happened, it was difficult finding doctors who know much or anything about it. So anyways, what would happen is I would take him to St. Joe's. And
Here in Nashua?
Here in Nashua, yeah. And interestingly enough, what they did is they detoxed him off of these drugs. And he'd get better. It was amazing. But because I didn't really understand what was going on, what I would do was insist that he take him again.
Okay.
And then I would take him again, and then in a week or two, and then I'd have problems again because he couldn't handle that
Did the
particular
doctor
drug.
say, as they detoxed him, did they say, well, he needs to stay off this, or?
No, they didn't talk to me either.
Okay.
But they understood what needed to be done, and they did it. And
So from this hospital, how did he end up into the state psychiatric unit?
well, after a couple, they took him. What happens twice is he would have fear, and then he'd run, and then people would start chasing him, and then you have this like circus-like thing out in the woods, and that happened twice, and it was really disturbing to watch. The first time I didn't go look. The second time I went and watched what was going on. I'd never seen anything like it before. And it didn't make any sense because if they just stopped, he would come home and, But anyways, they took him to, when they picked him up, took him to St. Joe's. And then the next time they took him to Southern New Hampshire Medical Center, I think it's called, the other place in town. And then when he was there, I called him up, and he wasn't, what they did was odd, because instead of discussing it with me, they just shipped him up to New Hampshire Hospital without telling me. They just did it.
And how old is he at this point?
He was 20.
So he's emancipated. He doesn't need a guardian at that point. And so they didn't feel the need to tell you, apparently.
Right. Yeah. And I had gotten a guardianship I think it was around in that
A court,
time
you were
period.
appointed guardian
Right,
by the
right,
courts.
because I saw things coming and I wanted to be able to have some sort of say in Andrew's treatment. And
And something shifted. How did you lose that guardianship?
that happened real recently. And when he was he went to the New Hampshire hospital, and then in January they moved him from the hospital to the prison. And then once he was in prison, a lot of things happened to him, because when you're in prison, you don't really have civil rights, not like you and I have.
Why was he moved from there to the prison? Was he acting violently at that
Yeah,
point?
he was acting violently, and by the time he was supposed to be in there for a week evaluation, which kind of made a little bit of sense to me. They claim, for whatever reasons, wasn't alarmed. Oh, I was alarmed because is a prison, and it's a little disturbing for somebody to be in a prison. So I did call up his social worker, and she told me that he was only going to be there for a week for evaluation, not to worry, But then they never took him back to New Hampshire Hospital. And they just left him in the prison as he is today.
How long has he been in the prison?
It's been, 8 months. Been a long time.
What are the conditions have you visited him there?
Oh, yeah.
When you first walk in, as the father,
Yep.
you walk in, what was your experience?
What happens, because he's in a prison, the first thing is when somebody's in a hospital, a real hospital, you're allowed to visit them, your loved one. And that was the case at St. Joe's. Every place that he's ever been, they always allowed visiting, and, it was good. It was good for everybody. But in the prison, you have to, number one, you have to get a background check.
Even though you're the father.
Yeah, even though I'm the father. And you pass, I think it's probably 5 locked doors, a series of locked doors with guards in them on the way to visit. And you go in to the visiting room, and what's in the visiting room is what you'd expect in a jail or a prison.
A glass door in front of you?
Yeah, glass door. They put you in a cell. You're in a cell. Andrew was in a cell. In between us, there was double pane glass windows. And then we talk on telephones or yell through the glass. That's your options. You're not allowed contact. You're not allowed touching. You're not allowed to sit down with them. Everything's, he's isolated.
So when you first were there and you were on the phone with him, what were the first things that you talked about, if you don't mind me asking?
Just basically the situation he was in, and he always thanked me for not giving up on him, and just being a good friend to him. I guess is what you'd call it. A good father. And
How many times have you had a chance to visit him?
well, that's the problem with prison. The prison is they only allow visiting on the weekends, and it's for 2 hours a day. But they only have 2 visiting rooms. And so if 2 people show up, then I can't visit Andrew until one of them leaves. So then they have to limit their stay to, say, an hour, and then I can go visit Andrew. And that's been happening more lately. And there's no solutions to it. They're not taking action to correct the problem. They're just ignoring it.
So what does Andrew tell you about his conditions and his environment?
He's in solitary confinement. He's locked up for 23 hours a day in a cell with absolutely nothing in it. No radio, no TV, no games, no nothing, not a book. He can't have anything in there. All he has is a cot of some kind. And he's the only one in the tier. You know, it's 10 cells, but he's the only one in there, so he has nobody to communicate with. And Andrew's a very social person, and he likes people. And he's isolated in there alone for months and months at a time. In fact, right now, you know, they let him have to be able to get out of his cell for 5 hours a day. And it lasted about a week because he hit a wall with his hand. Didn't do any damage. He just did it.
Are they still giving him the drugs?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they won't stop. Oh, they did stop. But then what they did is they removed me as his guardian.
Who is they?
They is his social worker and a fellow named Mark Fiegel, perhaps?
Feigl.
Feigl. Yeah. And the court, I had my guardianship. The court, they didn't I guess, yeah, you'd call it removing me and put Mark in his place, in the place of me. And Mark is very, very bad. He's not allowing his mother to see him. He wouldn't allow me to write letters to Andrew. They were being returned after reading them. I've been able to get 2 phone calls with him in the last 2 months. And so he's isolated. He's...
What's his guardian trying to do for him? Get him better and get him out?
Oh, no. The guardian told me that he is going to keep Andrew forever. He's quite blunt about it. What it is he has a company, I don't know the particulars, but he has a company or he works for a company. I'm not for sure which it is. It's apparently his.
What's the name of it, do you know?
It's called, it starts with an O. Like official, but it isn't. Public Guardians.
We can get back to that after. That's not an issue.
Yeah.
So he's not letting him out for any medical reason, or is this for his own safety? What is his excuse? Or does he even have to give you that excuse?
He doesn't have to give me excuse.
And the courts allowed this to happen?
Yes. They approved it.
So there must be a finding as to why they approved that.
No, they didn't give, there's no reason. They're not saying that I'm not a good guardian. The state just has more power. You know, they're all state agencies, you know, judges, this public guardian thing, his job. It's all, in essence, state employees. It's all state money, I guess is the way to put it. Is there a lawsuit
being filed?
Yeah, I have a lawyer, and I am needing to go to court so I can get Andrew out. Number one, he's not getting any treatment whatsoever.
Again, he's not committed a crime.
Yeah, no crime, nothing. He's no trouble. No criminal charges pending, nothing like that.
Is there a Facebook page that talks about a little bit about this, or is there a group in Hollis that...
Yeah, there's a group in Hollis. They've been doing a lot. One of his friends, Nathan Lindsay, he, on his own, started a petition to the governor asking him to release Andrew.
And so the governor knows about this?
Yeah, the governor knows about it. And they were able, he was able to raise 1,000, get 1,000 signatures.
Mark's friend.
Yeah, Nathan.
Nathan.
Yeah, Andrew was captain of the football team, and so
I said Mark. I meant Andrew.
yeah, and the wrestling team and that sort of thing. So he has lots of good friends. And another one, Wyatt Farwell, raised $1,000 for legal expenses for Andrew.
Interesting. Have you contacted the ACLU or any other support group?
Yeah. The problem with the ACLU is the person who's in charge of New Hampshire, he wants to be a judge in the mental health hospitals. He wants to be a prison judge, if you will. And so he, for obvious reasons, won't help.
So if somebody wanted to help, they could contact the Facebook page. What is the name of it again?
I'm not for sure. Something Nathan put together.
.com.
Oh,
I have it on the screen.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Some voice just said that. Okay. If somebody wanted to contact you, are you open for phone calls?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And would you be willing to give that out?
Oh, yeah. 603-465-3254.
Do you have an email that people
Yes,
could
I
contact?
do. It's DCB, my initials, Douglas Curran Butler, at underscore 9918 at yahoo.com.
So just say that one more time.
D as in dog,
Yep.
C as in cow, B as in butler, and then underscore 9918 and at yahoo.com.
Yahoo.com. Well, we're going to follow up with this. We know that the media has done some stories on it, and I think Channel 9 was there. Legislation is pending. The governor knows about this, and we will follow through with this. We hope that this interview gets out there and people will become more and more aware. Are there more? Do you know how many people are in the psychiatric unit?
No, I don't.
Something else to consider, but I think it's time for New Hampshire to stop kicking the ball down the road and maybe consider, adding on to the New Hampshire hospital. This is unacceptable. So we're going to get the story out, and we really appreciate you coming on to talk about Andrew.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And if you want to follow up, check out the Facebook page, and we'll be following up with this story. And thanks for watching Speaking with the Senator. Until next week.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.